Hello and welcome back to a new Rage Gaming video. My name is Olo and today we're checking out the new anime game Fairy Tail that was just released for PC, PlayStation 4 and the Nintendo Switch. We've checked out a few animes made into games on the channel so far and often they can follow a pattern. Fairy Tail, however, has some standout aspects that I can certainly appreciate alongside a few concerns. Steam reviews right now are mixed and I'd say that's for good reason. So whether you're a Fairy Tail fan or not, the question is, should you play this game? Let's start with the setup for the game, the story, and the setting. Fairy Tail is obviously a massive, successful, well-loved shonen anime adapted from the original manga, following the story of the Fairy Tail Guild and its many main characters, with wizards and magic that are core to this world. The magic users often group together to manage their regions and then take paid jobs to tackle the problems of the land. As you'd expect, things get ridiculous as the power scales and the events that unfold have higher and higher stakes, all taking place in this very colourful and yet often intense world. And since the anime has been going on for many years now, we've got hundreds and hundreds of episodes to watch. These anime games are often a great way to experience the main sections and arcs of the stories, to catch you up to current episodes, or give fans a chance to relive those impactful moments without rewatching hundreds and hundreds of episodes. On that note though, the game does begin from the Grand Magic Games arc through to the Tartarus arc, so it doesn't exactly start from the beginning of the story. In fact, this is roughly 120 to 150 episodes into the anime itself. So that's a big heads up if you wanted to see them forming the guild as we know it, with Natsu and Lucy coming into the fold. But it does start off with one of the best things in any anime, a tournament arc. Then by the end of the Tartarus arc, we'll have gone through maybe 200 episodes through that, and then we'll only be a couple arcs behind the current anime. Basically, it's a specific section of the story, but certainly a good spot for after things get rolling and big events start to unfold. The downside of all of this is that it's awkward for someone who isn't introduced in some way to the story already, but it's probably the best place to begin if we didn't pick the start. Having said all that though, once the storyline is finished, you can actually just keep going with the game. There's lots of missions to complete, like working on upgrading the guild, and all the characters themselves to improve, upgrade, and level up, which in itself unlocks more content and new cutscenes, which is great. Normally we'd see mission to mission until you finish the main storyline, and then that's the end of your usual anime game. Plus, Hiro Mishima, the creator of the series, was heavily involved in the project, and I'd say it does a very good job of representing the story because of that. Now let's talk about the gameplay, kind of an important aspect. Surprisingly, to me, Fairy Tail is actually a turn-based JRPG style game. So often with these anime games, they're fighters or Musu style, where you take control of your favorite character and then destroy hordes and hordes of enemies back to back. The combat uses a grid system, which is pretty surprisingly tactical compared to what I was expecting, and overall I think they did a very good job. The main mechanics are introduced step by step, never really overwhelming you, but still fast enough coming in to keep the combat advancing to something more tactical and involved. There's lots to play around with here, but it's always kept straightforward, and I think it's always simple to understand. Once we do get much deeper into the game, after many hours, you do have the option to disable the long animations that play out on every bigger attack if you want, but frankly, why would you? I honestly think the combat is the strongest aspect of the game, which is brilliant because, like I said, I did not expect a turn-based game, and they delivered well on it. Now let's mention the questing or mission system. Just like the world of Fairy Tail, we as wizards will accept missions from the request boards depending on the threat and the reward, and that gives us direction and some freedom of choice when it comes to what to do next. Main quests are generally great, they progress the story with cinematics and battles that match what we're doing, but on the other hand, even early into the game, we deal with filler quests. The majority of the missions outside of the main missions are very repetitive to an extreme level. We're talking fetch quests, run and talk to people quests, and obviously kill quests. These barely add to the story, if even at all. It's often generic and bottom of the barrel stuff, not really worth paying any attention to. But most offensively, you have to interact with some of these low quality side quests to raise your guild rank, which is required to progress main story sections. If you as a player want to experience this stuff and immerse yourself, even though you don't really care about the low quality of it, fair enough. But when it becomes a forced grind to do main stuff, you're forced to engage with it, it's not that fun, and it just pads out game time in the worst possible way. The game has up to 16 playable characters, but a massive roster of characters to meet, battle, or involve themselves in the story itself, so at least we have lots of character variety with the abilities that we use and the playstyle of each character, who we get to move around the world as on top.
ナオミ、クレア、フィーナ、マリー、イライザ、いや、髪の色が違う。エマ、ライナ、ジン、シドニー、ミシェル、ステファニー。
おっさん、どんだけ女作ってんだよ。
I think the visuals for the game speak for themselves on this one. It looks really good. Every character is presented perfectly, fitting in with the world and that anime vibe. The animations are satisfying, and because we see so many different types of magic in this kind of world, we have a lot to enjoy. The simple designs for the UI work well, and all the flashy mini cutscenes for bigger attacks add great weight to the bigger attacks too. Each and every move has its own unique animation, comparable to the anime itself. They were not lazy with this aspect of the game at all. But while I've got you, and I mentioned the word lazy, there's a lot of people using that word to describe parts of the visuals for this game. Icons of characters smiling when they're meant to be sad. Some characters, though, literally don't even have models in the first place, which is hilarious. One very strange thing about this game is that not every character is voiced, too. I mean, it's a huge cast, right? But it's harder to ignore when one character in a cinematic is voiced and the character they're talking to just isn't. So when some characters have no models, some characters have no voices, it's kind of weird. But before I get to the conclusion on this game, I just want to mention that the PC port has seen some pretty solid criticism, and it certainly deserves some of it. At launch, there's very little options that you'd expect from even the basic PC game. Most irritatingly to me was the no borderless window option. But also, we can't rebind our keys, and if you have a wider monitor, you can have issues because there isn't support for that. Plus, there's lots of reports of game crashing on startup and some FPS drops too. Generally, right now, I think the PC port needs attention, and hopefully they address this ASAP. So, should you play it? Now, by no means is this the most impressive and intelligent turn-based JRP compared to, say, I don't know, Persona 5 or something of that caliber, but it does enough to create a fun and varied experience. It's fun gameplay. And while that combat is pretty good, you're drowning in fun, silly, fairy tale vibes. It's a proper celebration of this series to experience some of the best parts of the story, or just immerse yourself in that world. Or, you know, just play as some of your favourite characters. That's the point of an anime game, isn't it? To celebrate and experience a fun world and an interesting story. If that's what you're looking for with Fairy Tail, that's exactly what you're going to get. However, obviously, we have those PC port issues, so I strongly advise you wait if you're buying on PC. And when it comes to that side stuff, I think if you love the world and game, you're going to enjoy the grind no matter what, but it doesn't do much to make someone who isn't super into it enjoy it. I've seen lots of different reviews on, say, Steam, who reacted differently to the game itself, from valid complaints like the PC port, to people who just don't like Fairy Tail in the first place, but playing this game for some reason. It certainly seems like we can easily get over 30 hours of game time without intentionally doing every bit of side content, which is a good sign, but that price tag is still a whopping $60, which I think is a lot to ask for an anime game, in which the main selling point is the world and its characters more than the game itself. Plus, apparently they had a greatly reduced budget compared to normal, yet it is still priced like a AAA game. I can respect what they've achieved here as a smaller team with a smaller budget. In fact, because of that, I think they've done a great job, but I can't appreciate that fact when it's priced so highly. For a super fan, I reckon you should go nuts, you probably love it, but for someone who is slightly skeptical, wait for a sale, wait for them to fix this PC port, and then I'll think you'll enjoy it if you like Fairy Tail even a little bit. So hopefully we see those PC port improvements and even some kind of small sale soon, and this game at that point would be well worth your time. What are your thoughts on the game? I'm always interested to see how people feel about these anime games, because I always wonder, do they do enough to excite and satisfy fans of the original series, or is it not enough? I think we all appreciate a good anime game when it's done right. For now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.